every time Steve reaches one of these milestones, a birthday, an anniversary, some significant event, it overwhelms me. Because it just seems like 10 minutes ago I could hold him right here, and a few minutes after that I would hold him like this, and a few minutes after that he was 15 and a half. That's the age in Florida where children are allowed to get their Amer's permit. And it's the age where he came to John Ellen and me and said, I would like to get my Amer's permit. And so we took him down and signed him up for that. And I said to John Ellen, if it's okay with you, I would like to teach Steve to drive. I'd like to do that. I'd like to be the one. There are a couple of reasons. Well, first of all, I mean, he's our only child, and it's, you know, it's like passing on the male thing, you know, it's a male bonding kind of thing. And also, I don't know if any of you feel this or fear this, but I always had this, it's probably irrational, I always had this goofy fear in my head that he would never really see me, that's crazy, never really see me like as his dad. You know, I was like this like motivational speaker guy who went off on this plane and sometimes came back and, you know, had a deeper voice than his mother and stuff like that. I mean, that was like it. And I was fearful also that he would feel like I had been like using stuff on him, using techniques on him. He'd come to me with, Dad, I really have a problem. And I'd go, conceive, believe, achieve, you know, or something like that. And so so I said, I would like to teach him to drive. How about it? She said, no. I said, no. Why no? She said, you're in and out, just from what you said, you're in and out of town. He needs a consistent instructor. I'll teach him to drive. I said, well, all right. Okay. All right. And then on the second day, she said, you teach him! Honestly, I mean, like I said, I've known John Ellen 50 years of my life. I didn't know she actually dislikes throwing up in the afternoon. I had no idea. So I said, I'll teach him to drive. Now, I actually grew up in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Some of you may be from that area. I know Al Borowski's here and some others. Thank you. Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, if you've never been there, there's something about that, about growing up there in the 50s and 60s and learning to drive, and that is, it's a very hilly area. In those days, there were lots of cobblestone streets still, lots of streetcar tracks, and we had a stick shift. So my memory of growing up is pretty much sitting like this on these steep hills with my left foot on the clutch and my right foot on the brake and my head essentially bowed in prayer, because behind me always there would be like some big gruesome looking guy in a dump truck that I knew I was going to back into, and then you'd try to do that thing where you'd get from the brake to the gas as fast as you possibly can, you know, that thing, so that you wouldn't do that wheezy thing where you have too much clutch, and also so that your father sitting in a seat beside you wouldn't go, yeah, like that with the head back. Those were my memories. So I said, well, why don't we teach Steve, first of all, this is like the terrain of Florida right here. It's just flat. And why don't we teach him in an automatic transmission car? So we at that time had one of those little four-cylinder Dodge Omnis. Do you know that car? Little four-cylinder, like a VW Rabbit, little four-cylinder car. And I'm teaching him to drive. And we start out on our little street, and we go to this grade school parking lot, and then we graduate to some of the neighborhood streets. And then we say, now it's time, that's the day for the road trip, you know. So we're driving from Fort Myers, where we lived at that time, to Naples. It's about 30 miles on US 41. I'm sure many of you have been on there when you've been down on vacation or visiting the condo where your parents are required to live at a certain age in that part of Florida. And so we've driven all the way down. Now we're coming back, and we're almost back to our home. And I have to tell you, Steve is doing an incredible job, and I'm really proud. I'm proud of him, and I hate to say it. God, it sounds so, I don't know what, arrogant or something, but I'm kind of proud of myself. You know, I feel like I'm doing a pretty good job here, not only of teaching him, but I'm bonding. And the thing I especially pride myself in is that you know how hard it is to teach somebody to do something that you know how to do well, right? And that I'm breaking it down into simple steps so that he can do this very easily. Now we're almost back home, and I say, Steve, when we get up to the next intersection, we're coming north on US 41, would you get into the left-hand turn lane with the green arrow? When the arrow turns green, would you make a left turn, careful left turn onto College Parkway? Immediately onto College Parkway, which is a 4-lane road, would you get into the right-hand lane and put on your turn signal? We're going to stop at Publix, which is our big grocery store chain, and pick up a few groceries for Mom. Wasn't that good? He said, "No problem, Dad." Now, I suspect this is true in almost all states in the United States now, and I'm not sure about those of you from other countries, but we have this law in Florida, as I'm sure most of you do, called right turn on red after stop. Is that right? After stop. Those are the operative words, after stop. Now, in your state, do people stop? No, of course they don't, and they don't in our state either. They stop if there are like 18,000 cars there, but otherwise they just glide through, don't they? Just glide through. And I had neglected to tell him as we made this left turn onto College Parkway that people coming toward us on US 41 might glide through the intersection. Now, the second thing that was a factor here was that naturally I was sitting in the right-hand seat. I'm 53 years old. When I learned to drive, there were no right-hand mirrors. I know that's hard for some of you younger folks to believe, but no cars had a right-hand mirror. I not only never used a right-hand mirror, until that very day, I literally didn't realize cars had right-hand mirrors. And just as Steve made the turn, I glanced into the right-hand mirror, and by gosh, there is a decal on that mirror. There are words printed on. Did you ever see the words on that mirror? What does that say on there? Right. Objects, I love this. This is another one of these great warning things. Objects are closer than they appear. Objects, think of that. Objects you have a funhouse mirror on the side of your car right now. And I'm thinking, objects are closer than they appear. What a weird concept. And just then I glance up into the body of the mirror, and all I can see is the headlight of a truck. Now, I put those two together. Objects are closer than they appear. Headlight of a truck. And thought, my heavens. And I flipped my head back like this, and this Peterbilt is bearing down on us at a rate of speed which I project in 4 seconds is going to result in intercept trajectory. And I know that I have exactly 3 seconds to warn Steve, and I also know this is the most important moment of my life because not only will it save both of our lives, but it will ensure for the rest of his life that he and I will be bonded in a way that can never be broken. And so using my journalism and my radio television degrees, and using my background in speech, using my CSP and my CPAE, using every initial I can think of, every bowl of alphabet soup I've ever eaten, I look to Steve. And I say to him, now, some of you who are not as experienced may not believe this is true, but this is exactly what I said to him. This is the exact quote. In 3 seconds, this is what I said to him. If nothing else has impressed you this morning, this will impress you. My son, my angel boy son. There appears to be a very fine gentleman in a large vehicle who wants to occupy the exact same place on the pavement that we now are. I've been thinking about this for a few moments, and my feeling is, let's let him do that. When you get a moment, I'd like for you to just slide very gently over to the left-hand lane. As he passes you on the right-hand lane, if there is then time to move back into the right-hand lane, you may do so. If at that time you seem to be relatively in proximity to the driveway going into the Publix, you may then make the right turn into Publix. How does that sound? 3 seconds I was able to do that. Now, I can't see very well with the lights today, but I do notice some people in the room who are slightly skeptical, and so in fairness to Steve, his perception of what I said his take on what I said, the way he appeared to have heard what I said, will vary slightly as he tells the story later to his mother. And so, in fairness to him, here's what he heard me say. But before I tell you, I should point out that we're talking about the rantings of a 15-and-a-half-year-old testosterone-laden child who has no initials behind his name. What he feels as he recalls the story I said, and by the way, what you'll say to me later is, Lou, we're only talking semantics. Here's what he says I said. Get out of there! Get out of there! Jeez, get out of there! He lunges over in the left-hand turn lane. This guy comes by us at a rapid rate of speed. We're 15 feet past the Publix parking lot, and he makes the turn. It's okay, we needed paper towels anyhow. Thank you.